Welcome back to OpenLine, talking about affordable housing in Nashville. The Metro Council has passed some new initiatives designed to deal with, make more affordable housing available in Davidson County. We heard from the chair of the Affordable Housing Committee in the council for the first half hour. We now have with us the litigation director from the Beacon Center of Tennessee, who has major concerns about that. How unusual is what has been passed here in Metro? How unusual is that when you look around the country?
So for this part of the world, it's pretty unusual. I know they've got these things in California. In fact, there was a case that the California Supreme Court considered last year that went up to the U.S. Supreme Court on a cert petition. The Supreme Court declined to hear it. We actually joined in a cert petition with the group Southeastern from Atlanta. But it's relatively unusual in the southeastern United States. I know Atlanta is starting to have early discussions about mandatory affordable housing. I think New Orleans is too, and I think that some form of this exists in Charlotte, though I'm not sure if it's mandatory or not. I'd need to look closer on it.
And you said you're still reviewing what has been passed and deciding if you're going to sue. How long do you think that'll take? When do you think you'll know?
You know, it's hard to put a timeline on it. We want to make sure that that we do our due diligence and are confident going forward that we're making the correct, doing what's best for the city and the people of the city.
All right, let's go to Tony. Hello, Tony.
Yeah, how you doing? Thank you for taking my call. You know, I'm really appalled that man sitting next to you because he's a Republican and he wants to deregulate this housing. I've been looking for a house for 2 years. Luckily, I've been in the military and I'm going under the GI Bill. And some of the houses I've looked at, they're dating back to 1920s, up to date. It seems like, and I'll tell you this is for a fact, right after the civil rights movement, there's been very few houses built from 1970 on up to qualify as a decent house. And this man, he's working with Lee Beeman. He don't want to see Nashville progress, and he knows people need houses to live in. Why is he fighting something like that and you want deregulation? That's never worked for this country. And I'm appalled at him being on there. I can't believe him and the real estate companies association here in this state is fighting housing for decent people.
All right, well, let's talk about that. Lee Beeman, a funder of the Beacon Center. But that's a point of view. Appalled that anyone would even fight this. You know, what do you say?
Well, first off, our funding is not public record. Nobody knows who we fund. We protect the privacy of our donors just like anybody does. But having said that, you know, I certainly can appreciate Tony's point of view. However, I want to emphasize again, I think that there should be more housing. I'm the one saying that we need to make it easier and easier for people to construct and provide housing. It's the zoning restrictions that we currently have that make it incredibly difficult to build and provide housing, and that's what drives the cost. And I must disagree when we say that that's never worked. That's exactly what's worked, is to increase the stock of supply. That's what brings price down. And I mean, I want to consider a counterfactual, which is what happens in cities that have really tight zoning regulations and mandates on zoning. I mean, as you pointed out, the most affordable cities in America are the cities with the most restrictions on zoning, like New York City and San Francisco. And I want to just point out a couple of startling facts that I hope Tony and everybody else will consider. Is that in San Francisco right now, which is one of the most affluent cities in America, it also has some of the most restrictive zoning laws in America. The median home price is $765,000. And I also want to point out that in 1970 there were approximately 100,000 black residents of San Francisco. And even as the city has grown, in 1990 there was only 78,000 black residents in San Francisco, and now that number has dwindled to 51,000 black residents in San Francisco. So it is certainly the case that, however inadvertent, but is factually true, that these zoning ordinances are actually harmful and counterproductive in many ways. And you know, another economic study that was done from the decade of the 90s showed that cities that are imposing below market housing prices only end up with 20% higher prices, and 7% fewer homes than they would have if they hadn't done it. So just if we're going to go off evidence, actual evidence, and what the numbers show that in fact these sorts of mandates are actually counterproductive.
And now to push back, the councilman who was just on said what we have passed in Metro are not mandates, that they are incentives. Do you agree with that?
No. I mean,
You would say this is definitely a mandate.
it is a mandate. It's not as aggressive as mandates in some other cities, but the fact of the matter is that if a developer wants to change an existing zoning regulations and incentives are available, a developer must comply with the mandates as directed. If it's mandatory, it's a mandatory thing.
All right, let's go to Mark. Hello, Mark.
Hello, how are you doing tonight?
Fine. Go right ahead.
Okay, and my question is, if a person is making $20,000 and $30,000 and up to $40,000, they still can't afford these condos and stuff downtown because it's designed for the people making over $100,000 a year. So a person that tries to move in there with the others that are making more money, they won't like that. So there's going to be problems with them moving in there on those levels with the people making more money because they don't want the lower income to degrade the higher income.
Well, the problem is there's no place for somebody making $60,000. It's hard to find a family with somebody making $50,000, $60,000, $40,000 to find a place to live. That's the problem. And so what do we do about it? And I mean, I guess you're saying let the free market decide. Just you got to build more so there's more supply. And then you hear the other side earlier. I don't know. Do you have anything to add to what Mark said, or?
Not directly to what he's saying, but we have to find a way to address this problem to the extent it is a problem in a way that is legal and constitutional and actually works.
The state passed what exactly? Well, you keep saying it's not legal. When you say it's not legal, you're talking about Tennessee state law.
Yes, sir.
And what is that? What was passed?
So last session, the Tennessee General Assembly passed a law explicitly banning this sort of inclusionary zoning mandates. It says anytime somebody wants comes for a change in zoning permits or anything like that, that the state cannot condition the issuance of those permits on providing affordable or workforce housing.
Again, that sounds like something the state did to deal directly with Nashville. Now, maybe this is being considered in Memphis, I don't know, but that's another one of these things where the autonomy of an individual city is kind of at stake there. And do you support that? I know that generally speaking, you support autonomy and that kind of thing, but do you support the state telling cities, okay, you can or cannot do this?
Well, generally speaking, I wouldn't take a firm position on when the state should and should not intervene. But in a case like this, we've actually got constitutional rights that are in play. That is the taking of somebody's private property. I think it is altogether appropriate and, in fact, necessary for the state to come in and intervene and protect the rights of its citizens. That's a prerequisite.
So you liken this to the taking, as if it's eminent domain, as if they're going to build an interstate through your property. They take your property. You consider this to be a taking, is that right?
Yes.
And why is that?
So the classic example is the one you've just proposed, where they want to knock down your house to build a road. That's a classic taking, and it's illegal or it's unconstitutional under the Fifth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution unless it is for a public use and you're given just compensation. What Nashville is trying to do is akin to that. They're trying to take the private property of somebody who wishes to develop and tell them that they must in fact lose money on their private property. That's a taking, even if it's not a physical taking in the manner you've described. It's really what's called a regulatory taking. The Supreme Court's taken up regulatory takings cases a few times, and I have a feeling that these sorts of cases will be among the next regulatory taking cases considered by the U.S. Supreme Court.
Several calls. I'm afraid we're not going to be able to get to the calls. Do we have time to take a call? We have 1 minute. Okay, so let's go to Ricky. All right, Ricky, can you do this in 1 minute? Are you there, Ricky? You're probably hanging up because I just said we weren't going to take any more calls. All right, bottom line, what do you want people to take away? Your point of view here.
Sure. The ability to address affordable housing overall can be done in a way that is not illegal, that is not unconstitutional, and we can have one that's more than just a mere gesture. We can have a solution that actually works, and that's what we should do. And ironically enough, it's the easiest one, and it doesn't cost taxpayers anything. We just need to make it easier for people to do what they want to do.
That means just more building. So that's what we come down to. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap everything up. Be back right after this.